Good evening, everyone. I'm Chelsea Ohlemiller with Grief and Goodbyes on Happiness, Hope, and Harsh Realities. And tonight I have a special guest, Andrea A. and she is an author. She's a speaker. She is a brilliant grief coach that all of you will hear about tonight. And I will have her links and all of her social media in the comments section, because I can guarantee you after this conversation and you see the work she's doing, you're going to want to reach out and get inspired and, have some more of her advice and resources. So welcome. How are you this evening?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. So I am just so glad that I could share some of your time with you tonight. I'm honored for you to be here. And I would love for you to just tell my followers and everybody that's watching a little bit about your story and what led you here.
Yeah. So, I feel like that's a
heavy question for somebody in the grief community. Right? It's like, load it on.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I want to thank you for having me on tonight. It's always like an honor for me to just be on with other people in the grief community, because I feel like since COVID, we have just we're like, okay, this is happening. Yeah. So I want to thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
So I always start with a quote, and it's a quote that came to me after the passing of my only sister. It's only two of us. And it is, I never knew the value of life until you took your last breath. Mm-hmm. So my young sister, I'm really the baby, but she was more the youngest. I was more the oldest,
Yeah.
Angela, she is my parents' oldest daughter. Her and I are 9.5 years apart. And she was born a fighter. She was sick as a little girl, and she overcame that. And Angie was my other mama. She pretty much told me what to do and how to do it. And most of the time I didn't listen. You know how little sisters do sometimes.
Yep.
And she finished school. She had a master's in social work. She loved teens. Her specialty was like teen mom. She had a special thing for teen moms because she said people will write them off. Oh, you have a baby. Oh, you won't finish high school. Yep. So she created a program within her school in Illinois that she was working at, Maine East High School. And it was just for teen moms to make sure they got the resources they need so that they could finish school. Beautiful. Now, I'm telling you all this. You'll see in a second why I'm telling you all this. And so she created a scholarship for them. Her own time, own money, volunteers, things like that, because she said it has to feel weird to be written off, all because you have a baby.
Right.
My sister wasn't a teen mom. So I'm sharing that because of my spirit. I follow what's in me, that sometimes we feel like because we haven't initially experienced it, we can't help. And we can.
Absolutely. That's so important.
That is so important.
Yep.
So
you need to say that again.
Sometimes we feel like because we haven't experienced it, we can't help.
Yep.
And it's untrue. I don't know who wall I'm breaking down right now, but it's totally untrue.
Yep.
My sister did not have a child as a teen, but she seen something that she didn't like, so she wanted to help. Yep. Right now, the scholarship is still going.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Her son presents it to the young women and young girls that are going off to college. So that's still, her legacy is still here. However, Angie was diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, which is in the African-American community. When it hits us, it's like, woof, it's hitting everything. Right. And I remember Angie being 36, 37-ish. And I knew something was wrong, but she wouldn't tell me until after my nephew's birthday. So she found out maybe a week prior to his birthday, but she wouldn't say anything, of course, right?
Right.
Because we're celebrating his first birthday. Then that's when she talked to us and told us she found a lump. She went to one doctor, and the doctor kind of shooed it off. Like, oh, it's nothing. Right. Well, then by the time she got to the second opinion, it had spread. Oh. Now, I don't know if you know this. I'm sure you do.
I don't
But
know. We'll see.
they were saying initially you have to be 50 or something to
Yes, because my
get a
mom passed away of breast cancer.
Yes. So it's like, so she's not even 50. So that's, what do you do with that?
Yep.
And so Angie, like, man, y'all, she fought. And here's the thing. She was into healthy things. She tried to be a vegan, pescatarian. Like, she didn't eat a lot of McDonald's and she exercised, and we're doing gallons of water. This is prior to us finding out that she had breast cancer. Okay. So she continued that journey and everything looked good. Everything was shrinking. So they say. Right. I'm going to always say that because I have my own theory behind that. And when they checked her again, they said, you know what? You're in remission. Okay. We're like, okay. Then she checked again. She said something isn't right. She went back. They said, wow, it came back. Now I have my own theory between the time period and when they said they came back, but we won't go there today. And it came back. But this time it was stage 4. It's only 4 stages.
Right.
18, it's only 4. So I come from a Christian home. We're praying. We're praising God because you could kind of see she was getting better, but then it's the turnaround. And anyone that has watched someone go through the chemo and the radiation, you can kind of see the turn. You can see it. You don't say anything most of the time, but you can see it. The end of May, I don't remember the exact date, Angie stopped taking chemo. Now, what she said to me was her numbers were not right.
Right.
And so she came to, she lived in Illinois. I'm from Wisconsin. So she came to my mom's and she woke up and her eyes were jaundiced. And I ran upstairs and I was like, Mom, she's like, I'm going to get her to the hospital. And by that time, that was the week of like June 6th. And that's when we heard the worst news ever. There's nothing more we can do.
Yep.
I still get chills because
I did too, and it's making me have tears because
because that is the hardest, toughest thing to hear, especially when you're thinking, well, you just said
yes,
she was in remission.
Yep.
So when we heard the news, so my parents were in there, my aunts, I mean, this is like 20 people in a room here. And I looked at my mom and she said, okay. But what people don't understand is when you hear something like that and people are saying, okay, they're not really saying, okay. They're saying, this can't be happening. But I'm going to say, okay, right? Because sometimes we're conditioned to say certain things.
Yep.
And so,
especially as a mother, your mother was probably conditioned to say whatever is going to be helpful for you guys. You know?
Yes, absolutely. And so, man, it was like a Lifetime movie. Every possible thing you think happened in that room did. She wanted her son. We went to go get him. They went in the room. I didn't go in the room when they were in the room because my thing is, this is her moment. He was, my nephew was young. So, he's just like, okay, okay, Mom, everything's going to be okay. But day 3, she stopped talking. And in the process of watching someone pass, that's that anticipatory grief a lot of people talk about. Anticipatory grief. We actually go through it when our loved ones get diagnosed with something. But I'm going to be honest, I didn't even know that's what it was called then.
I didn't know until I did this work.
Yeah. And so we start to grieve the person they were. My sister would call me at 6 a.m. To this day, I still wake up at 6. But I just talk to her in a different way.
Yep.
And so on June 13, 2010, at the young age of 39, Angie took her last breath as I was praying. I felt her last pulse. I held her hand. I closed her eyes because people assume that their eyes are closed. And that's not what was happening with her. She did not want to be resuscitated. And so my mother was in there. Everyone was in there. And the scream from my mom, I tell people this all the time. A mother's scream after losing a child is the worst scream because it was like nobody could get her.
Yep.
And so that's the day that Grief and I decided to become acquaintances. We got in that boxing ring with no gloves because now it's just me. And I'm 41. I'm their first child to reach 40 and 41.
Oh my goodness.
And it is the bereaved sibling part is a whole nother situation. But that is when 6/13/2010, never forget the date.
Yep.
On a Sunday, her favorite day.
Hmm.
And I kind of said, you're gonna go on Sunday, huh? And she kind of smirked when I said, and I'm like, Lord have mercy, you know. So that's the day we Grief and I got acquainted. We met in the boxing ring. And I'll be the first to tell you, it wasn't and it ain't pretty.
Right.
So that is how From Grief to Grieve
Yes.
started. Meaning, my sister told me something before she stopped talking. She said, Drea, because that's what they call me, I want you to do what God is telling you to do. But I know you're hard-headed. Facts. You know, there's some truth to that. And I'm not ashamed to say it. And I'm like, okay. Because at that point, I'm just like, whatever you say, I'm not going to have this sibling rivalry right now.
Right.
So that kind of always rung in my head. And I've always known that I'm supposed to speak about unfiltered things. My dad would tell you, I've been saying this like literally all my life. And my dad's like, you talk too much. You're too friendly. You know? And all of those things. And so I didn't get it then. Of course, I'm like, I lost my sister. My family dynamics is going to change. See, my parents are divorced. So I really have 4 parents. So now I'm not just looking after my biological mom and dad. Right. I'm looking after my bonus parents.
Oh, wow. Yes. And that's a lot. I mean, even just one set of parents, you know, is a lot, but then 2, and then, you know, you're also dealing with your own grief.
Correct.
And, you know, that parent, I got to see a different side. You know, I didn't have the sibling. It was my mother that passed away. So I got to watch my sibling grieve and then my dad grieve. And so that was an experience in itself. But what does that look like when you're looking at your parents and, you know, what is that like? Because there are a lot of people watching that don't know, you know, what that emotion holds and kind of how you get through that together.
Well, it looks like a hot mess.
Yeah.
It looks like, so I watched my mom have many strokes. So you're in the grief community, and anybody that's listening, grief is a physical thing as well. It doesn't just take the mental and the spiritual and all of that. It's a physical thing. So my mother's grief was shown in her body first. So she was having like many strokes. My dad and I weren't seeing eye to eye. It was like for one, I looked just like my sister. So let's just get that out in the air. Like her with my hair short and glasses, they're just staring at me like, okay. Yeah. You know, and so that has to be tough for them.
Right.
As well. My mother and God, that was left. That there was nothing there. She was very angry, extremely angry. Why my baby? Yeah. You know, things like that.
Absolutely.
A lot of tension. A lot of tension. And when I say tension, it's not the back end. You know, we see the who's going to get what. It's the tension of what could you have done something different? Maybe after the first opinion, we could have pushed her quicker to go to the second. Right. And I'm telling you things that have been said to me from my parents, or like, you know, watching my parents not eat, watching them they don't know what day it is.
Right.
And so I lived in Wisconsin at the time, and I would go from house to house. So not only am I my wife, a mom, my kids play sports, I'm checking on my parents every day. Now, in the midst of that, my mother-in-law had cancer as well. So then my husband is being a son, you know, making sure, you know, but he has a lot of siblings. You know, they're taking turns and things like that. So it's a hot mess. It's as messy as y'all think it is.
Right.
a lot of, sometimes we have this thought process where we feel like people should be crying, or we feel like they're not grieving enough, or we feel like their grief is like non-existent because they're smiling.
Yep.
Well, I can tell you, my parents weren't smiling. They were grieving their own way. Let me repeat that. You grieve your own way.
Yep.
There is no there's books, self-help books that can help you understand you as you grieve your way. But there is literally no black and white way to grieve. Yep. My parents lost tears, y'all. And I'm going to say it again. They lost them. They lost them. And so watching them was hurtful for me because I lost my parents that day. Yep. See, people don't understand. June 13, 2010, I not only lost my sister, my parents lost a piece of their soul, which means I lost them too.
Right. It's a million little things.
It is. I call it the tsunami.
Yeah.
If you watch a tsunami, because it came to me about 4 years ago, the word tsunami. I know what it is, but I had never watched one. And when I watched it, I said, oh, that's it.
Yep.
It's more than waves when it's the compiling of everything.
Absolutely.
Yes. So.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that comments are coming in. And if you guys have any questions or comments, make sure that you put them in there and we'll be checking that and throughout the evening. And hello, everybody. But I did want to ask you how you were talking about, your parents grieving and, you grieve in your own way. And I know one thing that surprised me was the fear, that, when my mother passed, my sister had fear that she was going to get sick. And, I had fear I was going to get sick, but then I worried that my sister was going to get sick. And so did your parents, it's kind of a two-part question, but I'm sure you felt fear about yourself and everybody around you, but did you also notice that in your parents when they looked at you, they were worried for you?
Yes. If my toe hurt, I know
no, I get it.
Yeah. My parents, their worst fear came true in real time.
Right.
So now they're like, I get a breast exam twice a year because of, my history.
Yep.
My mom can tell you the date I'm going right now at 41. Oh, okay. So it's coming up. So yes, Mom. Do you want to be on the phone too? Yeah. I mean, I'm going. And I do that. At first, it used to irritate me. I'm like, I'm grown.
Right.
But then I'm like, you know what? She's still a mom. Okay. Right. Let's do this. So she's on the phone most of the time. They were in fear of, I would be there for hours. My mom would call me from the time I left her house to the time I got home. I would have to talk to her. And my dad, he didn't really, to this day, he's probably listening girl.
He's like, don't tell my secrets.
Right. I can't really say if that was a fear of his. I'm sure it is. He doesn't express that. I will say my dad says, I love you more than I've heard him say ever. Not that he didn't say it before, but he's saying it throughout conversations. I love you. I'm like, okay. I love you too. I said, how many more times we gonna say it? And then he just starts laughing. But I know that it was, for him and God, because my dad's a deacon.
Okay.
So I know there's some conversations that went on with them two. And we always say, tell the people you love that you love them. Mm-hmm. I randomly send texts to people you don't have to text back. I just want to tell you on my mind and that I love you. So it's a thing. And for me, hell yeah. I'm 41 and that stuff still bothers me. I want to, and I tell my kids, I want to be 100 years old and y'all still rocking and rolling. And they just look at me like, okay. And so, but what really helped me now, when I share this with people, they're like, you did what? So me and my husband in 2011, his mom passed away. Almost that's a whole nother conversation. It was back-to-back losses for us. Yeah. And we left Wisconsin we moved to Texas.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know the impact it would have on my parents, though. Because here's the thing, they physically couldn't get to me. Well, I mean, they can on a plane.
Right.
But before it was 15 minutes.
Right,
That's
not
a big
quickly.
difference. Yeah. And they went through another loss. Just not in the death part, the dying part. But
Right.
they went through losses. We go, you know, friend goes away, things like that.
Yep.
But I had to do that to start my healing journey. Because I didn't start it June 13th, 2010.
Right. And that's a good point. I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of people see someone like you with this story and this, you know, powerful, you know, organization and work that you're doing, and they think, well, I'm not there, you know, but like you said, it wasn't immediate for you.
No.
It was a process, you know, and I think some people just forget that, you know.
Yeah. And I had to go into go mode after my sister passed. My parents were at the funeral home, but guess who had to speak up? Guess who had to share the colors she wanted? I had to make sure, you know, the programs, like those, I had to go into the business part. That's what I decided to be the manager. That's why I told my parents I was the manager that day, you know. And so, and it was hard for me to even grieve because I'm watching them grieve.
Yep.
It was hard. I'm not gonna lie, it was hard. It was almost like, oh, and I felt that in my spirit, that I was being selfish if I started to grieve and they lost a child. But then something happened to me, 2012, I'll say. And I said to myself, you lost a sister too. Your first friend, the person who knows all your secrets. Lord, she knew everything. The one who was with you in the delivery room when you had your oldest son. The one who picked you up in college because you were drunk. I mean, these are real stories.
Yeah. Sorry, parents. Don't be Your dad's like, I already know.
Right. The one who you talk to at 6 a.m. or the one you can call at 2 a.m. because you're having a problem. Drea, you have the right to grieve your sister. Your hip. Well, I was really her hip because she was older than me, but you have a right to do that, and that's okay. I was saying that, but I still wasn't doing it until we left. And it was almost like I had to have a new scenery to even understand what grief was, what grief is, because it's still going. What grief is. What is a healing journey? Like, can you be healed from grief? That's a question I get all the time.
Yeah.
What does that look like? Does that look like traditional therapy? Does that look like praying it away? What does that look like? How do you figure that out when you feel like you're alone? I'm not the only sibling who's lost a sibling, but I felt alone. It was very hard for me to find a support group because they had one, you know, for parents who lost their children, for kids who lost their parents, people who lost their grandparents. I found one organization in Wisconsin. One. When I moved here, I found two. So I had to go global, like to the UK.
Oh my goodness. Well,
now
you're talking two in the whole state of Texas.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It wasn't a lot when I moved here.
Right.
So I really had to feel those ugly feels. The times that I didn't want to get out of the bed, but I got out anyway because I got kids and I'm doing this and I'm doing that and I got this. Those may have been the times I shouldn't have. So now when I don't feel like getting up, hey, I just make an APB to the children. Husband, look, give me about 30 minutes. Let me get myself, you know, together enough to get up. I'm not having a good day. I am now no longer ashamed to tell people I am not okay. I am not having a good day.
Yep.
And that's very important, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll go back and answer that question is, what is your opinion on, you know, healing through grief? And I know what my opinion is, but can you heal from grief?
Such a tough question.
You led to it, so I had to come back. I was like, you're not getting off without answering that question.
The answer is whatever healing means to you. So to me, healing is I learned to live with grief. I learned to love on it, meaning love on it. Oh, I'm feeling it today, or I'm going to feel it today. Mm-hmm. That means I got to know when it's time for me to take time for self-care, when it's time for me to let go of people that no longer serve me. Because in grief, we hold on to people, to family members, to friends, because we feel like they should be there for us. And some of our family and friends, y'all, they're just not able to. And it's not even personal.
Yep.
They just don't know what to do or how to do it. So to answer the mighty question, as always asked, can you be healed from grief? The answer is, for me, you are on a continuous healing journey. Mm-hmm. Healed for me is like a Band-Aid.
Yep.
And then you take it off and your skin is fine. This is a journey. Most of us, I'm going to say all of us, all of us heal in different ways.
Absolutely.
Some of us don't cry anymore, and that's okay.
Right.
Some of us cry all the time. That's okay. Yep. Some of us watch Lion King, and we're like, oh my God, what? Those parts that didn't hit us before now hit us now. That's okay.
Yep.
You are on a forever healing journey.
Absolutely.
It's okay that you have a good time and you smile. It's okay that, to celebrate your loved one's life on that day, whether it's their birthday or a holiday, that you go to their favorite place and you just sit there alone. That's okay. Absolutely. So that's my answer.
Yeah. I always say it surprised me when I started writing and having my page that question comes up a lot from, followers, and they'll say, well, when will I be healed? Or when will I feel like I am healed? And I never have, brilliant answers. I just say, I honestly compare it to more of like a scar. Mm-hmm. And at first it's raw and it's bleeding and it's painful at the touch. But as the years go on, it's still there. It might be smaller and tender, but it's not, as raw and bleeding, but it's never, ever going to go away. And is it ever truly healed? Probably not. But is it a lot easier to look at and to have? Yes. And so it's just this, complicated journey.
Yes.
I'm trying to keep up with all of the comments, but there's like Karen, Chris, my mom, the Lion King, and cried for her mom. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Like I will say, it hit me. I've always been an emotional person. We always used to make fun. My mom and grandma and everybody like cry all the time. Like everybody in like all the women in our family just cry at everything. But it got even worse after my mother passed, and it would be the most awkward, mundane things that would happen. The grocery store or the bank teller or somebody that, my sister went to one of her breast exams and the woman's name was Rita, which was our mother's name, which is not a very common name. And that set her off, And so it's just, I don't know if you've had those experiences.
Oh yeah. I have them all the time.
Yeah, me too.
I'm almost like, oh, okay. Like today, that's what we're doing. That's my favorite line.
Yeah.
So I was talking about Angie. I posted this on the Instagram. So I was talking about Angie, and I went with my friend, and I went to get some Chick-fil-A. Right? I'm like, my girl wants some Chick-fil-A. Yeah. I know I said Andrea. I know what I said. Like, I know I said, my name is Andrea. And it's on my Instagram on For Grief to Grind. Y'all can look at it. It was like 3 weeks ago. When I go get my food.
No.
They said, Angela, here's your food. I just started laughing because I'm like, okay, you want to make me cry today? Like,
yeah, I would have looked up and like, thank you, sister.
And I'm talking to myself. The girl is looking at me, and I know she's like, okay.
She's like, take your sandwich.
And so after that, I just kind of sat in the parking lot and I cried. But I was laughing and crying like, okay, I know I was talking about you, but it wasn't like in a bad way. And I didn't think that your spirit would just come at Chick-fil-A. Like, I'm hungry. I just want to eat.
Right.
I don't want to be called Angela. Like, that's not what I want. But I was just like, I know. And I started second guessing myself because that happens a lot.
Yep.
Where, like, I met a young lady, and her and I, we're just talking. I'm at a friend's house and we're talking. And someone says, hey, Angie, how are you? Something literally came all over me. And it was her. And I just stared at her. And she said, are you okay? I was like, mm-hmm. So I said, I'll be right back. I go to the car and I'm like, and I'm talking, can I get a warning next time or something? Yeah. Like, we can't be doing this.
Right.
So,
if only it were that easy.
Right. So I get those types of things and feathers. I could be walking in a Walmart parking lot and I know there's birds everywhere, but lately it's been a blue feather.
That's beautiful.
And that just means that your angel is right next to you.
Yep. I call those little like love glimmers.
Yeah.
Kind of coming down to show you in some special way.
And honestly, that didn't start happening till I moved here to Texas. And that's just because, again, I'm healing.
Yep.
I'm facing my grief head on. I'm in the boxing ring with no gloves now. So it ain't pretty. So that's what, I get it all the time. And I'm just like, okay. Yeah. Someone said there's our butterflies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Butterflies
that's
are gorgeous.
Beautiful. Yeah, yes. We don't see a lot of those in Indiana where I am, but well, and I want to ask, so you have this whole, you coach, you are speaking, and you have From Grief to Grind, which is not only social media, like you said, on Instagram and Facebook and everything, but you have this whole foundation and platform. And so I would love to know, when did that come? Like how far into your grief journey did that enter? Because it's such an important work that's out there in the world that is so needed. And so many people, I want to send everybody to your website and to your different social media. And I'll put it in the comment section at the end, because it's just, you would think the fact that the entire world grieves, like we all grieve, it's a universal experience, that it would be less taboo by now and more resources would be known. But that's not the case.
It's not the case, no.
So tell us about your, work and how far into your journey that came along.
Yes. 7 years after my sister passed away.
Okay.
2017. I'm going to share this story with you that I only share with a few people. My Aunt Dot spoke to me. She is my godmom. So when I go to Wisconsin, I see her. She's always fussing at me about something. And she says,
that's what aunts do.
Yeah. And she says, you're supposed to do what God's telling you to do. And I'm like, okay. She's like, you're not listening. Let me talk to you. She has this like attitude. And I'm like, I'm not going to say nothing back to her. So I just have to take it. And she says that I am supposed to share my sister's story. And I'm supposed to tell people about my grief journey and to help them and support them in a way that they haven't yet seen. And I'm like, haven't seen. Okay, that's what I did. Okay. And she's like, okay. I'm like, I don't know what you want me to say,
Right.
And so we kind of talked a little bit. I asked her what she meant. She meant that, she's a first lady. I grew up in a Christian family, so they have the church form. But she said, with using your spirit and God, help them help themselves in a different way. Because what's happening is, every time I say this, people are like, ooh, people sway from God. Whatever your belief system is, when you lose someone close to you, some people just go left. They don't want to hear about it. They don't want to talk about it. Don't tell them to pray about it. Don't tell them nothing. They don't want to do any of that. Why? Because they're hurt.
Yep. That was me for a while.
So she kept saying, like, you got to do something different. Because I am different, meaning I'm loud, I talk, I'm friendly, They're like, girl, since I was a little kid, I would get fussed at for that. And I always tell them it's paying off now. They're like, yeah.
Exactly.
And that was July of 2017. Now, my very first book I released on Angie's birthday, January of 2017, but I hadn't started From Grief to Grind in January.
Right.
Well, after I left Wisconsin, my aunt had a stroke.
Oh.
She went into a coma.
Oh my goodness.
And she died in October of that same year. Talk about a dagger. Now, not only am I being hard-headed, because I'm really not, I heard what she said, and I'm like, I know that this is my calling. I know it, and I knew it then. But when my aunt passed away, I said, okay, so now, God, you pushing me, like, now, we about to have an argument, because
yeah,
I'm not, this is what I'm saying, I'm not ready. And I promise you, a friend of mine said this to me. Can you really be ready for grief? And there was nothing else I could say.
Absolutely.
I said, no. And 2017, I say July, because that's when my aunt spoke over me and told me what I'm supposed to do. But it really didn't go full blown till after she passed away in November. Okay. So yeah, niece's grief too. I got something coming up for that, because we kind of think of the immediate family. Yep. We don't think about the extended.
Right.
Your cousins, your aunts, your uncles, they're struggling too. How can I help my sister or brother? How can I be there for them and my kid is still here? Right. What do I do? Yep. And I know personally that some of the things my family struggled with my parents. Yeah. How can I help them? And I'm over here calling my kid. Right. So that's when From Grief to Grind started in 2017. 7 years, y'all. 7. Wow. It didn't start in 2010. Definitely didn't start in 2011. Right. But I knew the foundation was 6/13/2010, but full blown 2017. Wow. So it really is work that is housed in building and extending many legacies, not just your sisters. Correct. Yeah. And I can honestly say that the legacies that are being built from Grief to Grind, because here's the thing, I didn't realize how many parents I would be helping. Yep. Remember what I said earlier, right? Yeah. I didn't know. Before June, that's why I was working with parents so they can help their kids. They don't know what to do. Again, we're juggling. Yep. And then we're piling on. Then we're juggling and then we're piling on. So grief in life is messy. And it's like, what is going on? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So yes, absolutely. Well, and what, because the brilliant thing too, which people might not know this, but not only do you coach people through their grief, but you also train people to be grief coaches. So, you have so many different avenues where you're really impacting the world in all these little ripples. And I hope you see that. And I hope you feel that, because it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I wonder, when people show up to you as, someone deep in grief, and they come to you for coaching, and they're messy and they're broken and they're vulnerable, and they say, what do I do now? What's usually the first thing that you tell them or remind them of? I ask them how they feel now. How do you feel? And most of the time they go silent because they don't know. Right. And so, because how do you express that you're feeling 52 things in 1 second? In 1 second, yeah. And so that is when I like to say I step into the guide mode. Guide is grieving unfiltered and divine enlightenment. So I believe in your intuition. It's telling you a lot. True story, and I know you feel this too. After you lose someone, your intuition is like, here. Oh, yes. If you're an empath, then it grows up even higher.
Yep.
So this is why I call it the guide method.
Yep.
That's something that came to me personally. And so I asked them, how are they feeling right now at 7:25 p.m. Central Standard Time? I don't want to hear about 7 o'clock. I want to hear right now. Majority of the time they break down because they haven't had the option to even say how they feel because they're too busy being busy,
yep,
avoiding their pain. And how do you dissect that in a way where you can heal accordingly? That means your way.
right.
So that's kind of where I come in. Now, let me put a disclaimer. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a counselor. I am a coach, which means I'm here to hold your hand. And I'm guided by the Most High. So I'm watching you. If like, I have a lady now, she does not take care of herself. Like, she don't take time out for herself. She doesn't go to doctor, like all these things, right? And I said, okay, so what are we going to do this week to make sure you get 30 minutes to yourself?
Yep.
Well, Andrea, I said, I wake up at 5 a.m. on purpose every day. By 6, I'm talking to my sister, and her picture's like right here. This is my wedding picture.
Show us. Hold that up.
Yeah.
So we can see. That's beautiful.
Oh, let me see. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
That's my wedding day. Beautiful. And so I purposely do that for me because if I don't, it's going to have a ripple effect in the household. Women, we run the household. Oh, yeah. If we ain't in a good mood, ain't nobody else in a good mood.
Yep.
And so I just talk about with them if it's self-care, because everyone is different, because we're at different positions right now. And nobody's is greater than the other. I'm going to repeat that. We're at different positions and nobody's is greater than the other. Because we have this thing with comparing grief, which is, that's a whole nother conversation. So, so I kind of like do a self-care plan, which so most people are like, that's grief coaching. Here's the thing. We are in a battle. And some of us are right now in a battle for our whole entire life. Like, how are we moving? How are we going to work? I don't know about you, but I can tell you 2010 and to 2012 was a blur for me for a very long time. I'm literally going through the motions of life.
Yep.
And so that self-care plan is going to start something. It's going to be that igniter to say, oh, I'm not feeling it today. Or I'm feeling some type of way because an anniversary is coming up, or a birthday, or holidays. Or you get a promotion at work. Man, I know you want to call your mama because I want to call my sister. Yep. And I'm literally like, well, since I can't text you, I'm a kind of a comedian. So I'm like, since I can't text you and I got to look up, I got to tell you, like what's going on, but I always didn't have this tone. I always wasn't, people are like, you're so bubbly. Like, someone said this to me, you don't look like you're grieving. I said, huh? I said, you know what? Thank you. And I wrote a whole post about it. First of all, what does that even mean?
Right.
Like, how am I supposed to look?
Yep.
And they read it and they apologized. But I told them, I don't want you to apologize for something you're conditioned to say.
Right.
I just want you to change it. That's it.
Yep. But isn't that funny too, that it's this, oh, you don't look like you're grieving, while at the same time, when you do look like you're grieving, that's uncomfortable for people.
Yes. Yeah.
So where exactly, it's always just like, well, what am I supposed to look like? What am I supposed to do? Because apparently this grief thing is, nobody talks about it. It's invisible. It's hidden away. And that makes you feel even more lonely, And so it's like, then afterwards, I'm sure that, you're like, I don't really need your apology. I just want you to be aware, because I guarantee you there are other people that have heard those same things and weren't as resilient as what maybe I'm going to be when I hear it.
Yes. So can I just talk about that word resilient?
Yeah.
Okay. So the reason why I want to mention this, because it's the word is a trigger for some people, resilient.
Yep.
For me, it's not. Personally, it's not a trigger for me. But I want people to know that if a word is a trigger, which is perfectly fine, it can be a trigger.
Yep.
Help us, and I say us because I always say that's just me. Everyone's a collective. Help us understand how and why. Reason being, to me, resilience only means I'm building my strength. Doesn't mean when I'm triggered or unhappy or I feel like I just got to feel today, doesn't mean I'm not strong or resilient. It means that I'm a human being and that I feel. That's why I just want to touch on that. Because
yes, absolutely.
Because I think it's the conditioned ways of thinking.
Yep.
And the conditioned ways of, like, some of us are robotic. So, like, a young lady just said, I get that a lot about not looking like we're grieving. And you're right. A lot of people can't handle if we don't look like it. And if we feel, here's the truth, because it triggers them. It literally triggers them into a place they don't want to go to.
Yep.
Avoidance is at an all-time high in society. That's like the first thing we do. I've done it. A lot of us have done it. But here's the truth. Can't avoid it all the time.
Right.
It's going to catch up with you.
Yep.
So I look at it like, do I want stuff to catch up with me? Or do I just want to say, let me go ahead and feel this right now?
Yep.
So, I mean, when I was going into the avoidance times 10, I mean, I was like, thinking my sister is going to walk through the door. I'm going to see my aunt when I go back to Wisconsin. I would just like break down in the craziest place. Walmart. Mm-hmm. Driving my kids to school and they're looking at me like, we don't even know what to do.
Yeah.
You know, and
mom's doing it again.
Yeah, right.
That's when my kids, they're like, oh, mom's crying again. She must be missing her mom.
Yeah. And so it's like with that, I had to learn, okay, now you're playing too many games with your emotions. It's time for you to really feel now and stop holding it down.
Yep.
Grief is heavy. Grief is heavy as hell. Mm-hmm. And when you push it this way, it gets heavier.
Yep.
Somehow you got to figure out how to release it, how to push it out. Whether it's dancing, writing it down, journaling, TikTok. I work with a lady. Funny TikToks is her thing. That's she like laughter. She loves laughter. Kevin Hart, she thinks he's like, he don't know it, but I was like, you should write him and tell him, like, you know, you're helping me, you know.
Yeah, grieve. Yeah.
We got mindfulness. We have yoga. There's so many things now that's the part I love right now. I believe COVID helped the other things come out because guess what? This is all we had right here. Mm-hmm. And YouTube. Yep. And so there's so many different ways to release your pain, to release your grief, to mourn. Yep.
Wow, that's so powerful. You need to find a way to release your pain. And that is different for everybody because the pain is different. Mm-hmm. So the releasing is going to be different. And wow. Yes. Yeah. And so research and try different things. Yep. So I'm a writer. I'm an author. I love to write. Writing is comfortable for me, though. Yep. I write all day. So I had to learn to try different things. So I'm going to do hip hop dancing, and I have 2 bad knees. So y'all pray for me. Are you going to like do some videos so we can see the journey? Yeah, absolutely. I want to try rock climbing. I love outside and I love nature. Yeah. And so with that being said, I'm like, let me try rock climbing. Y'all heard the 2 bad knees. Yeah. Right? Well, I'm going to like 3 months from now, I'm going to put it in my calendar, be like, how's the rock climbing? how's the dancing going? Yes, absolutely. So just try stuff and figure out what can help you push this up and just, whew. Yep. Even if it's walking meditation is my go-to. Dopest thing. Here's the thing. I got 2 bad knees, so I can't walk 20 miles, but I'm like, can I get to? And it's just me and nature. Yep. That's it. And that's when I'm a crier.
I cry.
Me too.
So that's when the words unspoken come out. That's what I call tears. These are the words unspoken that sometimes it's hard for me to even release to someone.
Yep.
And then I do traditional therapy as well. And then, of course, I write. I love poetry. So I go to First Fridays where I live. They have poetry night.
Oh,
I
that's
go
cool.
there. So it's just so many different things. So many different things.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, well, oh my goodness, I could talk to you all evening. I just think that you just have such a, powerful story that you have turned extremely full of purpose and, extending those legacies. And like I said before, it's just this ripple effect of, some mom in Indiana, who has 3 kids and a husband that's, just sitting here grieving my mother, feeling a little bit alone, that found your work and was extremely inspired, even though our stories are different, So I just want to thank you so much for the work that you're doing. And I can't wait to see all that comes from it, because you've been doing it a while, but I can just tell there's so much left to do.
Well, thank you so much. When I tell people I'm honored to be a vessel, they're like, huh? I'm like, I'm chosen. Yep. Like this grief work, we're chosen.
Yep.
And with the certification, how that kind of came about is I've taken 20 certifications, and it's stuff I don't even tell y'all. I take them more for me, like for me, just to grow. Like I was really into mindfulness, but I want to know more, so I have a mindfulness certification. For me, it was just learning it, understanding it. How can I dig deep within? So I do use that with my clients as well. But what's interesting is they don't even know that's what I'm doing.
Right.
They're like, oh my God. I'm thinking, and so the grief certification came up because there's so many people that are called, but they don't know how, how to do it. And every person is unique. So each person that has been in my program, they do it in their own unique way. Meaning, a doctor just took it, Dr. Elizabeth, and she uses it in her coaching practice, but it's intertwined in her life coaching.
Oh, beautiful.
She doesn't necessarily call herself a grief coach, but it's like all the methods are intertwined. Then I have a young lady that's taking it now, and she's starting a concierge service. So when someone passes away, let's say you don't know what to do, that's who you call. She's going to find the funeral home. She's going to get the program. That's what she's going to do with that. Yep. But in the midst of that, she said she knows she'll probably gain some clients and things afterwards, because the aftercare, that's a whole nother lie.
Yeah.
The aftercare. I mean, I was this 11 years since my sister passed away. Probably in the last 5 years, I've gotten a lot of support, the support I was looking for in 2010.
Yep.
And it's more because people are becoming more aware. And when someone loses a loved one, just a loved one in general, we seem to connect more to people that understand that I'm not okay day, or understand, a lot of people take social media breaks.
Yep.
They're like, these memories about to come up on FB. I'm not. We're going to skip that entire week, because I don't want to even deal with those moments. And so that's the certification kind of came up, and women reached out to me to do it, and I came up with it. So I'm totally honored just to be a vessel and to help people.
Yeah.
Understand that. Thank you. To understand that it's okay to grieve your way. There's no right or wrong way. It's your way.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And don't let anybody tell you
different.
Don't
let anyone tell you any different. Don't tell them. For those who try to tell you different, learn to walk away. I used to snap on people. I used to be like, who are you talking to? My favorite line is, where's your sister?
Oh, yeah.
And they would just get real quiet. So you can't tell me how I'm supposed to be feeling or how I'm supposed to act. But I'm saying that This is hard for a lot of us. But if you walk away and find your peace in that moment, because they come to you at the wrong time. You can be at a party. I was at a party. Why can't we just enjoy the moment?
Mm-hmm.
Why? And now I'm all messed up and I want to go home. Sometimes you just got to walk away and regroup and say, they're blessed to not understand this pain.
Oh.
That part.
Wow.
So that's why they're saying it.
That's grace right there. They are blessed to not feel this pain and know this pain. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for being here. Do you have any last words of wisdom or encouragement you want to share?
Yes, I want to thank everybody for commenting because they are like going.
Yeah, I know they keep coming in and they get all blurry on the side, so it's hard.
Yes, Karen says she starts dance next week, and my dad was at my recital in May. Okay, good. Well, keep us updated on the dance.
We need to see how you're doing too.
Yes.
Is it Zanab? I don't want to say. My name is Chelsea. Everybody calls me Chelsea. We already said this. Andrea and Andrea.
Right.
So I always feel bad mispronouncing people. So if I mispronounce your name, I'm so sorry. But she said, I've had to cut so many people off. My threshold for BS is really low. I feel that. Chris said, I need to learn to walk away. And I think that's another thing. It's just a journey. Like
it's a
you
journey.
Don't get it right away. You learn with confidence in your grief. If that's a thing, even, I think the more you accept your grief and the path, you're more willing to not take BS from anybody and kind of say, this is where I am today, because just like you said, I was at the bank one day and my sister, she tells a story. She got feisty. I mean, she was like not having it. I mean, I think this is another story too, but just bank people, when you're going in there to close accounts for people that have passed, I think there needs to be a special person that deals with people in loss. And this lady was not nice. And, eventually I just looked at her and I said, well, is your mom still alive? Do you know what it feels like to be signing a death certificate from a mom at 57 and I'm, 30? And afterwards, I had to learn in my grief to, oh, wow, it must be nice. And it is nice to not know this grief. And she just doesn't know,
Yeah.
But it wasn't easy at the beginning when you're 7 days in and you're trying to do things everyone's telling you to do.
Oh yeah. That's a whole nother life too, because we're grieving the bank account.
Yeah.
Like, who wants to do that?
Right. Well, it's another finale. Like, people don't
understand.
This is another way that says she's gone. Never again is she coming in here to cash a check. And so it's just a bunch of endings. Like, it's not one. There's another ending and another ending.
Yeah.
So
I like that. The admin of grief. I like that. Yeah. They need something. But I want to thank everybody for coming on.
Thank you.
And someone said it's like 2 a.m.
Oh my gosh, where did you see that?
I don't know.
Is it 2 a.m.? Where is she from?
I don't know. But she says now they said they're glad they caught it. Thank you so much for coming on. Y'all can find me. I'm all over all social medias, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, at From Grief to Grind, From Grief to Grind.
And all of them will be in the comments, so that all they have to do is click it and it'll take you right to her Instagram, to her Facebook, to her, so I'll make it super easy for all of you guys. Her website has her information on her coaching, books, everything. So all of that, if you guys give me just a few minutes, it'll be in that comment section. So super easy.
Yes, absolutely. And so my final words to you today is grieve unfiltered. Don't filter your grief. If you have to say all of the swear words, say it. If you want to scream it out, shout it out, kick it out, do that. And it's okay. I'm all over. You can message me and say, Drea, I'm not feeling it today. Not only will I sit there and talk to you, and people are like, yes, because here's the thing. One of the things for me personally is to make sure no one else feels like I felt. Extremely alone, not just alone, extremely alone.
Yep.
And that is part of the foundation of From Grief to Grind. You are no longer alone once you join the community on Instagram, like our Facebook page, join a coaching or one of the coaching programs, grab a book. I have several books as well.
Yep.
I have digital products. If you're out of the country, out of America, a lot of people from the UK and things like that, they do the digital. So I have digital material, digital journals, to help you start your engine. Because here's the thing, it's going to be moments the engine ain't working, and that's okay. So I want to show y'all so much love, show yourself so much grace, and grind every day. That doesn't mean grind 24 hours. It means hone in on what you need to do for your healing. My name is Andrea A. Moore. I'm your Master Intuitive Grief Coach, Certified Bereavement Facilitator, author, speaker, and most of all, I am the creator's vessel. And I want to thank you so much for having me on tonight.
Oh, thank you so much. I hope we can do this again sometime. Thank you, everybody, and good night.
Good night.